Hey, 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 Happy New Year, and welcome to this podcast, which is called The Journey with Sarah Alexia. I started this podcast, I would say, in the summer of 2022, but I did fall off, I would admit, and for several reasons. One, I wasn't confident enough. Um, and what God was speaking through me. And I wasn't confident enough that people would actually listen. So this year, I told God I'm going to give him my complete yes. Like, I'm no longer going to share my podcast just with my friends and expect it to go somewhere. Like, it wasn't going anywhere because I was only sharing it with my friends. I was only sharing it with like people I trusted, quote unquote. But I believe that this year God is just telling me to share with the world. So I'm gonna start off with this podcast. I'm just gonna share it with the world. And this is just me giving God my yes. So I pray that you enjoy what you're about to hear, and I pray that you just really lock in. And if you have me on Facebook or if you have me on Instagram, I'm definitely open to your feedback just to see like how I can grow and how I can learn through this journey. So again, Happy New Year and welcome to the Journey with Sarah Alexia. Okay, let's get into it. So, I want to start off this podcast with just a quick opener question. And I really want you to really think about this question because we're really going to dive into this topic. So, how do you feel when people compare you, whether it be in a good way or whether it be in a bad way? Do you find either validation or invalidation when you are being compared to someone else? Just think about it for a moment. Okay, so continue to keep that question in mind and really hold on to, do you find validation or invalidation? I'm going to get more into that topic later on in this same episode. So, what is comparison? Comparison is the quality of being similar or equivalent to pair or match, or the examination of two or more items, whether it be human beings, cars, whatever. So, that is what comparison is. Now, there's this topic or there's this argument I love to have that comparison is not the same as inspiration. I had this conversation with a friend where he thought that comparison and inspiration were the same thing. I do not believe that is true because comparison, you just compare yourself to the next person. And like I asked before, like you either feel validation or invalidation. And there's really not much to do with the comparison, but just to either be envious or jealous or try to be better. And that's what he said, like, okay, trying to be better means they're inspiring you. But if someone inspires you and they fill up your inspiration cup, wouldn't you want to pour it back onto others? So if you find yourself, comparing yourself to someone and that's it, and you just like, you try to be better than that person, you keep it pushing, you just compared yourself and that's it, you're keeping it pushing. But when you're inspired, you now, you're so overflowed with inspiration that you want to pour it back into others. And that's why I think there's a difference between comparison and inspiration. But let's get into, I'm going to be very transparent with my life. And I'm going to be very transparent as far as what comparison has been for me. Like, I'm just going to talk about how comparison has negatively impacted my life. There's about 5 points that I want to share with you all. And I want to know if this resonates with you. Do these 5 points resonate? Is this something that you struggle with? Because I'm going to be completely transparent. Michael Todd loves to say he's going to be hot, humble, open, and transparent. That's what I'm about to be, very hot. And obviously I've struggled with comparison, but I've also combat certain areas of my life. So let's get into it. So the reason I named this episode Comparison is a Savage, because comparison has done some very savage things in my life. So just jumping right into it, like I compare myself a lot to just people in my life overall, whether it be at work, rightfully so, just always comparing yourself, trying to be better than the next teacher, but trying to be better than the next dean, and stuff like that. So I would compare myself a lot at work. I would compare myself to my family members, especially to my little brother, always comparing myself to him because that's the environment that I grew up in. My family always saying, "Yeah, Almar is much nicer than you," or "He's much smarter than you." This, that, and the third, and I would just compare myself, even at my old Jurassic age, still comparing myself to him sometimes. But now I've just learned to walk confidently in who I am, and the place where I compared myself a lot, and you would never think that someone would compare themselves in this type of environment, but I would compare myself a lot in the church. Like I'm a church girl, grew up in the church. I literally, like I was born in the church. So I compared myself a lot to the church and a lot to the church, but I compared myself a lot to the people in the church. And here's why. I was talking to God about this. Like, imagine me, right? I have been in, like I said, I grew up in church. Church is my life. Like I've been in this faith thing for a while. I've been believing in God for a while. And, there are some things that I pray and ask God for, and they don't come to pass. And I'm like, okay, I got to continue to wait. Like the Bible says, they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Like it's my season to just keep waiting. And I've been waiting, for 5 years, 6 years. I've been waiting for such a long time. But then there's this new person that comes into the church. They get saved, and 2 months later, the same thing I was praying for, they got it already. And I'm like, whoa. Like it makes you compare yourself because you're like, why didn't I get this thing? Or why did I get this type of blessing? Like, and then you start to question, like, did I do something wrong? Is something wrong with my walk? Or let's say, you aspired to be a pastor for a very long time, or you aspired to be on the worship team for a very long time, and you had to wait like 10, 12 years to even get a mic in your hand. And this person, they just get saved, and 3 months later, they're already prophesying on the stage. And I'm like, bro, what? Like, this is something that's been a desire of mine for a very long time. And I had to wait 10, 12 years to even hold a mic. And they only had to wait 3 months and they just got saved and they're already holding a mic. This is what comparison did to me, man. I thought either one, something was wrong with my walk, or two, that people didn't deserve to be where they're at because I've been doing this thing longer than him and like longer than them. And I'm like, did I do something wrong in my walk? So, like I said, I compare myself a lot. And these are the areas, where I compared myself, especially in the church, in the place of God. Like I was comparing myself in that manner. And just a couple of key points. Like I said, I have 5 points of what comparison has done to me. The first point is comparison has had me stagnant for a very long time. And you're probably wondering, why did it have you stagnant? So stagnation has definitely been a root. Not I want to say a root, has been a branch of comparison. Yes, stagnation has been a branch of comparison because I've been so stagnant in my mind, so stagnant in my own walk of God because I'm so consumed about what the next person is doing. And that's what comparison does. Like when you find yourself comparing yourself to the next person, you're just so consumed about what are they doing, like what they got going on. Like, for instance, like I could be minding my business, but as soon as I see that someone talks about the next person, I gotta worry about, okay, what are they doing? Like, where are they about to be right now? Let me make sure I'm in the same place so that way the attention is not solely on them, and let me do the most so that way the attention could be on me. Or, for instance, like honestly, this is probably the most corniest example. It's my example, and it's gonna sound crazy, but do you have the Bible app? Like everyone has the Bible app, right? So I'm the type of person like, and it's weird. I believe I had to pray and ask God to deliver me from this. But when I would see certain people on the Bible app and they're like going in, they're highlighting, they're making their verse images, they're doing their notes. I would have to like in that moment because I see them doing it. I would go, let me highlight, let me put mad notes, let me make mad verse images so people can see me. I want my name to pop up in their notifications as well. Mind you, I was in the middle of doing something, but because their notification popped up on my phone, I felt the need to one up them. It sounds crazy, I know, but that's my testimony. I had to share it and I prayed to God about it, and I believe He's delivering me. So again, that's not the only example, but I have other examples as well where like I would go to a specific event and I make sure I have to be there so that way, people don't see this person as solely invested in this community and that they see me as invested. But yeah, I didn't have the time. I was exhausted. I was tired. I looked broke, busted, and disgusted at the event. But because I wanted them to see me as invested in the event, like the next person, I went because I'm comparing myself and I want to make sure that people see me. So comparison, it gives you this yearning to be seen by others. But we have to remember there's a God who sees us. His name is Elroy, and He sees us. But when we sit there and we idolize other people seeing us, it kind of just causes a dysfunction in our spirit, which is not good. So that's like my first key point is that comparison has caused me to be stagnant because I believe that lots of stuff in my life have been delayed because I compare myself and continue to just snoop on other people's lives instead of worrying about what's for me. What does God have for me in this time and moment? Like, I can't be worried about my friends. I can't be worried about my siblings. I got to worry about what's going on for me right now. Where does God want me? Because did God even want me at these events? No, he probably wanted me to go somewhere else. And I probably missed out on my blessing because I was at another location worried about the next person. So that's my first key point. My second key point, or my second point as to how comparison has negatively impacted me, comparison has separated me from God and has me thinking that He doesn't hear me, He doesn't see me, He doesn't love me, and that some like the things that I prayed for, the things that I fasted for, the things that I'm believing Him for, that they're in vain because let's go back to the point where I said I've been in the faith all my life, but yet a new believer comes to the faith. It's been 2 months, and the same thing that I've prayed came to pass for them quickly. Like they got that promotion, they got the new job, they got the house, they got the Boaz. 2 months in after praying, praying once or twice, but yeah, I've been praying for so long, for 2, 3 years, and it has yet to come to pass. So for me, I would start to think like, God, did I do something wrong? Like, did I not pray hard enough? To the point where I'll be like, okay, what prayer did you pray? And I'll pray that same prayer, or I'm like, what did you do? Like, I would try to walk their walk to make sure that that thing comes to pass for me. And then when I would do the things that they did, it still didn't come to pass. So I'm like, God, what am I doing wrong? Like, what am I doing wrong? And it would separate. Like, there would be moments where it separated me from God because I would stop going to church. I would stop listening to worship music. I'll start listening to secular music. Start watching like weird shows I shouldn't be watching, and then falling into sin. Basically, like I would just start falling into sin because I'm like, you don't see me, you don't hear me. What's the point of me living a righteous life anymore? You're not answering my prayers. Like I would dead be mad with God, like to the point where I'm purposely sinning because I'm like, this God don't see me or hear me. He hears everybody else, but not me. And obviously that's not true, but it goes back to the point of the comparison versus inspiration. So instead of me just being inspired by the new believer's walk or inspired by, how the blessings came to them, I sat there and compared myself, and that energy resulted into me just sinning purposely, willingly. Instead of just being, okay, I'm so inspired by how so and so surrendered so much that in 2 months, God provided a miracle for them. God provided a breakthrough. The promotion came in 2 months. And instead of me celebrating the fact that, their hope came to pass or that vision that they had came to pass, I'm sitting there comparing myself and I'm not happy for them. I'm not joyful for them. I'm not rejoicing with them. And with that, like, I'm just mad. I'm mad at them. I'm mad at God. I'm just mad overall. And now I'm sinning. So that's like my second point of how comparison has negatively impacted me. That it separated me from God, which separated me from rejoicing, which separated me from celebrating, which separated me from just living a righteous life because I'm comparing myself. My third point on how comparison has negatively impacted me. Comparison has kept me in a shell. Like I was not the real Sarah Alexia for a while. And I thank God that towards the end of 2022 that I was set free from trying to live in the shell of others, of the people I would compare myself to, and that I was able to really be myself. So yeah, like I said, it kept me in a shell. I would feel like I could not be myself because it wasn't like the other people who was getting the attention. For example, the type of person that I'm very loud. I don't care. Now I don't care. I'm very loud. I can be very obnoxious. Like, for instance, I was at a fine dining restaurant with my friends and we went out to eat. And I kid you not, I was probably the loudest in the room. Mind you, we're all bougie, wearing our bougie dresses, getting the little portions of meals, and there's other people around us. And I'm just being very loud. And like, I'm singing that song by Mariah Carey, Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angels' voices. So I'm singing that song, but I'm not singing it like that. I'm singing it in an opera voice, like literally just singing in the top of my lungs at a fine dining restaurant. And like, I have these, like, I would have an urge to always do it like every 5 minutes. And they would tell me, like, oh, people are looking at us, this, that, and the third. But I didn't care. Like, I was so free and comfortable in myself that I didn't care that people were looking. I didn't care that the table behind me was getting annoyed. I just didn't, because what does it matter? I'm not disturbing you. Like, just because I'm being loud doesn't mean anything. Um, so that like I was just like I was being myself freely. Obviously, there's a time and a place for me to be obnoxious. I would never go into a White House meeting, or I would never be in a serious meeting singing at the top of my lungs. But because I'm having fun with my friends that are out to eat, um, I just decided to be obnoxious. Now, when I say I was very obnoxious at the fine dining restaurant, it wasn't overboard. It was just enough so that the table could hear me a little bit, like the table behind me could hear me a little bit, but the whole restaurant couldn't hear me. So I'm not that obnoxious, but I love being obnoxious just because, like, it allows me to be myself. It allows me to show my true personality. I'm also very smart. But for the longest time, I would hide my intelligence just because I didn't want to seem, um, like this girl that acts like she knows everything, because other people around me, they didn't act like they know everything, and like they had like a more humble approach to their intelligence. But for me, I'm like, oh, if I know what 2 plus 2 is, I'm gonna tell you straight up it's 4. I'm not gonna pull out a calculator and act like I didn't know what it was in my head. If I know that 20 times 20 is 400, I'm not gonna act like I didn't know and put it in my calculator just to be like, oh yeah, let me just put it in my calculator. I would do that for a while. Like, I would know the answer, but I would act like I didn't know it because I didn't want to come off as someone who always knows it. And the people around me that always got the attention, they were always Googling answers. They were always acting like they didn't know it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what gets the attention. People are more comfortable going to people like this. So let me be like that. Um, and I can be very witty. I always have a smart remark. And the thing is, it's out of love, it's out of my humor. I just like to be witty, but I would notice that other people, they were kind, they didn't really have much to say. So let me just be like them. So for the longest, I used to always try to walk in, in the shadow that was more classy. And I'm not saying I'm not classy. I can be very classy. But if I'm in an environment where I'm truly comfortable and these are my friends, I'm going to be myself. Like, I can be classy, I can be quiet, I can be kind. But if I'm in an environment where these are my friends, these are the people I'm rocking with for the rest of my life, I would want to just be myself, the true Sarah Alexio. So, I wasn't doing that because I wanted to be accepted. But I realized that because I was in the show, when I would be with these group of friends and I wasn't being myself, I would just find myself on my phone, like just on my phone the entire time, and just like scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through the Bible app. Because I mean, if I can't be myself, I'm not going to talk at all. If I got to sit there and walk in this person's shadow, I'm just not going to talk at all. But once I really got, the idea, like, Sarah, just be yourself. Like, I wasn't even, like, when we went to the fine dining restaurant, I was barely on my phone. Well, and we've done other activities together, and I was barely on my phone because I wasn't walking in someone else's shadow, and I wasn't fighting, to try to be accepted. I already know that I'm accepted by my Father in heaven. And so with that, like, I was able to operate in my true self. And I'm just happy that I am, because now I can actually engage with people and get to know people. And I'm not sitting there on my phone 24/7, like, throughout the entire event. So that's another way that comparison has affected me. It's caused me to walk in a shell, like, just to be in a shell and not really be myself. And sometimes we miss that. Sometimes we don't think that comparison is going to, cause us to be in a shell, but it does, because you're trying to be like the next person, and because you can't, you're just not yourself. You're just in a shell to yourself and not really doing what you've been called to do. So here's my fourth point on how comparison has caused a negative impact on my life. Comparison caused me to not want to see other people win. So I know the other points I talked about, how like it just affected me personally, and how, it separated me from God, and it caused me to be stagnant, and it caused me to be in a shell. But now other people are getting involved in my comparison to the point where I didn't want to see them win. And it would cause me to be spiteful and subconsciously just push people away. And it just allowed room for unnecessary offense. So, for example, right? I'm a leader. I'm a leader at my church. This is an example. I'm a leader at my church, and I'm a great leader. I'm great at what I do. Very powerful, very anointed at what I do, and I love the fact that people see that. I love the fact that people acknowledge that. Now, with that, let's say other people try to join the team that I'm a part of. I would be fearful of, what if they do it better than me? And I wouldn't pour into them. I wouldn't want to mentor them. I wouldn't want to help them out in any way, shape, or form, because I would say in my head, I don't want you to be better than me. Or even worse, I wouldn't delegate the task, and God would like download visions inside my spirit, and he would show me like, okay, this is where I want the ministry to go. And I would just take matters into my own hands and not delegate, because I don't want the next person to be better than me. And just think about how that's bad, because comparison will have you think, I don't want the person to be better than me. Where inspiration, it will just tell you, like, okay, we're gonna work together and we're gonna advance the kingdom. That's why we're working together, to advance the kingdom, to advance this ministry, to advance this team. But comparison will have you to think, I don't want this person to be better than me. And for the longest, that's what comparison did for me. Like, I'll be a part of these teams, and I'll be the leader, and I wouldn't delegate. I wouldn't ask anyone for help, or I wouldn't want them to do what I'm doing because I would hate for them to be better than me. And that's bad. And then it would cause me to be spiteful because, they would ask for feedback, and my feedback would be like, well, maybe you should work on this, or maybe it's not your time yet. That's just me being spiteful because I know the potential that's in them, and I know that they could potentially help me advance this kingdom spiritually. But fleshly, I'm thinking, okay, they could be potentially be better than me. So I would be spiteful. I'll give them, spiteful remarks that would discourage them, and probably they wouldn't be confident in the work that they're doing. And then I'll just push them away. Like, being spiteful pushes people away, and then maybe they don't want to be part of the ministry anymore, or part of the team. And then again, it just creates unnecessary offense for myself and for the next person. And that's comparison, man. Like, that's what it will do. Like, we don't see it. And the thing is, comparison is all of the enemy. Like, it's so subtle. It's so subtle. Like, if we don't realize it, like, comparing yourself to the next person is so subtle. We just think, oh yeah, they're better than me, this, that, and the third. But if you continue to dwell on that thought, it causes stagnation, it causes separation, it causes you to not be yourself, and it causes you to not want to see others to win. But yet, we're all called to run this race. We're all called to run past that finish line. But how can I be praying for my brothers and sisters to win, but yet I don't want them to see, I don't want them to win in this area that I'm already winning in. And we talk about iron sharpens iron. How am I sharpening you if I don't want to see you win? And that's what comparison blocked all of this for me. So that's my fourth point, as how comparison has negatively impacted me. And that um, I really got excited about that point, because now, like, God has shifted my perspective. Like, no, we're all called to win. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. All we do is win, 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 no matter what. Like, that had to be my mindset. Like, we gotta win. We gotta advance the kingdom. So that's my fourth point on how comparison has negatively impacted me. So my fifth and last point on how comparison has negatively impacted me is comparison. And honestly, before I say this, like, this one really, it hit the most for me, and it really pricked my heart the most, because, like, dang, like, I didn't even know comparison was doing all of this. But comparison will have you to think folks are competing with you, when in reality they are truly for you and praying for you. But you can never see that in the eyes of comparison. So there's been a lot of people in my life whom I pushed away, and they were truly rooting for me. But deep down inside, I always thought, yeah, you're just trying to be better than me, or you just think, you're just trying to get closer to me so that way you can get the blessings that I have. And just thinking, like, it had me thinking that I was better than the next person, because I had this comparing mindset. Um, it had me thinking that I was better than you. And because I'm better than you, I don't want you to become closer. I don't want you to come close to me, because I don't want you to reap everything that I've sown. I don't want you to reap the blessings that I've sown. I don't want you to reap the talents that I've sown, because you're just trying to get close to me because you want to be like me, or you want to be better than me. That was the mindset that comparison had me to have. And to me, now that I think about it, I'm like, yo, that's a crazy mindset. But it made me realize that, there are some people who genuinely just want to be there for you. There are some people who are truly rooting for you. Like, even though the blessings are coming for them, they're still rooting for you, that the blessings will come for you as well, and that they're not competing with you. And, like, for the longest, I pushed people away. I pushed so many people away, just thinking, yeah, they're not for me. They just want what I got. Or, they're not for me. Or they probably think they're better than me. Like, it goes hand in hand. Either I think I'm better than them, or I think that they're better than me. And mind you, it's all about me thinking. It's in my mind. It's not even true. It's just in my mind. So comparison will have you to think that folks are competing against you, instead of them being for you. And, like, obviously, it could be true, but this is where you pray and ask God for discernment. You ask God, God, show me this person's heart towards me. Like, what is their intention towards me? Because there are going to be moments where people are, they are against you, and they're not really rooting for you. but there are people who genuinely are for you. And that's why we need to seek the face of the Father and ask him, like, who is for me and who is not. So that way we don't have to live in this comparison mindset. We don't have to compare ourselves to our brothers and sisters, even when they're winning or even when we're winning. We are all winning, and that's the mindset I had to get into, is that we are all winning, and that's where the inspiration comes in. Like, if my friend gets the blessing, I'm inspired. It makes me want to pray more. I'm going to pray. I'm going to rejoice. And then I'm going to be inspired to pray even more and like continue to seek God's face, because if he could do it for them, he could do it for me. But when you are faced with the eyes of comparison, or you have the eyes of comparison, you don't see it like that. You see it as, these folks are competing with me and I have to try to be better. So that is my fifth point on comparison. I just want to get into some Bible really quick, because just to see how, this has unfolded in the Bible. So I'm gonna get into a little Bible really quick, just because it was fascinating to see how this has unfolded in the Bible. So we all know the story about Cain and Abel and how Cain killed his brother Abel. But it's interesting because as I was reading, you can see some of the comparing terminologies that were taking place. So in Genesis 4, around verse 2, it says, later she gave birth to his brother and named him Abel. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd while Cain cultivated the ground. So right there and then, you can already see like the comparison terminology. It's like, yeah, Abel was the shepherd. Well, Cain, he just cultivated the ground. And then it talks about when it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord, and Abel also brought a gift, the best portion of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but did not accept Cain and his gift. And this made Cain very angry, and he looked dejected. So right there and then, you could just see why, the story talks about how Cain killed Abel. You can see why, because imagine you have a gift, right? Oh, okay, imagine it's Christmas, right? You buy your mom, you see this cute little perfume set at Walmart for about $17, and you bring it to your mom for Christmas. But then your brother, he buys your mom this Versace perfume set, comes with a lotion, has this nice little pouch that comes with it, about $179. And he brings it to your mom. Now, you give your mom the gift. She's like, oh, thank you, gives you a kiss, blah, blah, blah. But then your brother gives her the gift, and she's mad excited. She takes a picture, she posts it on Facebook, it's on her Snap story, this, that, and the third. You're going to feel some type of way, because you're going to be like, dang, like, my gift didn't get that much love. Like, you didn't post my gift on social media. You're just posting the $100 gift. And you kind of feel some type of way, and like, you feel some type of way towards your brother. Mind you, it has nothing to do with your brother, but you feel some type of way towards him because he brought the better gift and he's getting the better praise. And that's probably how Cain felt. Is like, I brought a gift, but they didn't really care. God didn't really care for my gift. I'm just a man that cultivates the ground and no one sees me. And what I love the most about, as you continue to read, in verse 6, it says, why are you so angry? The Lord asked Cain. Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it and be its master. So God didn't even acknowledge the fact that, Abel is the reason why Cain is mad. He just said, you will be accepted if you do what is right. So it doesn't matter about the gifts you bring. It doesn't matter if they think the next person is better. You will be accepted no matter what. It doesn't matter if Abel gets the accolades. It doesn't matter if, his gift is accepted. You as a person will be accepted. It literally, when you look at Genesis chapter 4, it just says that God didn't accept his gift. It didn't say God didn't accept Cain. It said he just didn't accept his gift. But God had to reaffirm and tell Cain, you will be accepted. Maybe your gifts won't be accepted, but you, Cain, as a person, you will be accepted. So even if you can't get the job right, even if you don't get the promotion, you will be accepted by your family. You will be accepted by your friends. Even if you don't act like the way everyone else acts, you will be accepted. Like, I had to learn at the restaurant, I was still accepted. I went to ask my friends after the restaurant, after we're done eating, I'm like, hey, was I doing the most? Because part of me, that comparison feeling was still inside my heart. I'm like, yo, was I doing the most? And then my friends started to affirm, like, yeah, you were fine, whatever, this, that, and the third. That's who you are. I was accepted. I was still accepted, even though I was being obnoxious in a fine dining restaurant, probably embarrassing them. I was still accepted. Cain, you are still accepted even though you cultivate the ground. You are still accepted even though you're not a shepherd. You are still accepted even though you didn't bring the firstborn lambs. You are still accepted. But what does God say? He said, but if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you. So if you continue to stay in this comparing mindset, if you continue to be envious of your brothers and sister, sin is crouching at the door. What is sin? For Cain here, it was murder. Murder was the sin. Comparison, to me, comparison is a sin because it leads to a greater sin. It's one of those subtle sins, but then it leads to a greater sin. And like, I'll be honest, because I've compared myself so much and because I've been in environments where I'm always comparing myself, there are certain people, I wouldn't say I wish that they were dead, but I would wish that they wouldn't be around. I would wish that they would probably go to a different church, go to a different school. There'll be times where, like, if they wouldn't show up, I'll be so happy because I'm like, dang, yes, I don't have to compare myself. I would like I said, I don't wish that they were dead, but I wish that they weren't around. Like, I wish I would never see you again. So that way I'm not sitting there exhausting myself to compare myself to you. That's really what I wished. And it sucks because who thinks like that? But I was thinking like that for the longest. Like, when there would be events, I'd be like, I pray this person doesn't come. And when they would come, I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say, yeah, I'm not going, but I'll be annoyed that they're coming. But I would be happier if they weren't there. Cain, he was happier if he thought to himself, I would be happier if my brother wasn't around. That was his mindset because he didn't want to sit there and keep comparing himself to his brother. So he's like, all right, so that way I'm not comparing myself to you. Let me just kill you. So that way you're not around. So that way people could just see me. That was literally my mindset. I've had a mindset like Cain. Again, I'm not a murderer, but subconsciously I didn't want you to be there. Now, there's another person in the Bible where there was some comparison that we have. I'm not going to get into the scripture, but if you want, you can find it in 1 Samuel 1. But it's Hannah and Peninnah. Hopefully I'm saying her name right, or Peninnah. So Peninnah, she was able to bear children. She was able to have children. Hannah, however, wasn't. And, there was some gloating around, she was boasting, Peninnah, like she was boasting about it. But Hannah, here's what she did with that comparison. She went and praised the Lord. She went to go pray. She went to go fast. She went to go surrender. And what I'm trying to say here is sometimes, because comparison is all around, like, we're going to be compared to other people. We're going to, feel the need to compare ourselves. But in that, and this is how I believe this is how I know I got delivered from comparison. I literally had to get into a heart position of surrender and always worshiping. Like, when I would feel myself comparing myself to people on social media or to my friends, I would just go to the word. What does the word say about me? And I know that sounds cliche, and it may sound cliche to you, but to me, it's what I had to do. I had to go to the word and I had to see, what does God say about me? What does he say about my future? He has a plan for me, a plan to prosper me and not to harm me, a plan to give me hope in the future and an expected, and specifically for me, not for the next person, but specifically for me. Like, I had to go into his presence daily so that way he can affirm what is on the inside of me and I don't have to worry about the next person. And it allowed me to rejoice with others. When their goals and their visions are coming to pass, I'll clap it up for them now because I know that the same God that did it for you, he's going to do it for me. And like, sometimes I had to pray. I'm like, God, I'm praying to you about this thing. And I pray, God, that you would search my heart. And I pray that I'm not just praying for this thing just so that way I can beat the next person, but I'm praying that it's just a genuine desire of mine. Because sometimes our desires because we're trying to be better than the next person, or we're trying to show off to the next person. But I had to ask God to search my heart and ask him, like, listen, I don't want this to be a bad desire. I don't want this to be a desire where I'm just trying to race my brothers and my sisters. I want this to be a genuine desire of mine. And that's where Hannah's position was at. Her heart was, I just want this son so I can give him right back to you. It's not so that way I can shove it in Peninnah's face. It's not that way so that way, Eli can see me. I just want this son so I can give him right back to you. And she meant that word. She gave him right back to God. So that thing that you're desiring, or that thing that you find yourself comparing yourself to the next person, are you willing to give it back to God? So that's just my tidbit on comparison and how it's affected my life, and how God had to transform my thinking using the word and just using overall life. And I truly believe I am walking in a manner that is free. Like, I'm free from comparing myself to people. I am free from the thoughts of others. I am free from thinking that I'm not good enough. I'm free from that because I know the plans he has for me. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future and an expected end. For me specifically. And I pray that same for you. Father God, I just thank you for the person that's listening to this, God. I pray, God, that they would know that you have a plan for them. A plan to prosper them, not to harm them. A plan to give them hope, a future, and an expected end, specifically for them. Specifically for them. So Holy Spirit, continue just to speak to them, God. Continue just to affirm your love for them. I pray that this would inspire them to just be in your word even more so that way they can see these plans and know that these plans will come to pass. So Holy Spirit, I pray that you just have your way. Continue to move by your power, continue to move by your spirit. So that's the end of that's the end of this episode. So the 5 key points again is comparison. Hopefully, if this resonates with you, I pray it does, and that you can overcome. So comparison leads to stagnation. Comparison leads to separation from God and from people. Comparison keeps you in a shell. Comparison causes you to not want to see others to win. And comparison will have you think folks are competing against you when they're really not. So if these resonate with you, if you have me on Facebook or Instagram, let me know. Share your thoughts with me. And if you have any feedback for this podcast, I'm definitely open for the feedback. But I definitely appreciate you for listening all the way through. And I pray nothing but God's blessings for you. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. I hope you lock in.